They got back in that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who at that point in time, we didn't know that Shai was going to turn into an MVP level player, but was a player that showed some promise and was a player that when you saw him, you're like, hey, that kid got something, right? And then they got 7 first-round picks back between that. 2 of those first-round picks turned into Jalen Williams and Cason Wallace. And then they used their own picks that they had to get to that turned into Josh Giddey and Chet Holmgren. They then turned Josh Giddey into Alex Caruso. They then this offseason, right, they went out and got Isaiah Hartenstein and they got Alex Caruso. They got players that fit what they were trying to do without giving up a whole lot. They still have tons of draft capital, right? And they were able to build a team that got to the second round of the playoffs naturally through the draft picks that they got from those 2 trades and the way that they built and developed their players. Then they went out and got Alex Caruso. They got Isaiah Hartenstein to help push them over the top, and now they're in the NBA Finals, right? The Pacers took a little bit of a different route to get there, but again, similar, right? They made they flipped Domantas Sabonis to the Sacramento Kings, and they got Tyrese Halliburton back in that trade, right? And this was a team in Indiana, much like the Bulls are now, that had been stuck being mid for years and years and years before eventually getting to the place of making that trade. They sent out Domantas Sabonis. They got Tyrese Halliburton back, a player who at that point had shown some things, right, but didn't really have the opportunity to spread his wings and turn into the player that he eventually became, right? And Halliburton became a legitimate young star that gave them a focal point to build around. They added him to a player that they already had drafted in Miles Turner, right? And then they went out and surrounded him with very versatile players that provided spacing and defense when they added Pascal Siakam, Aaron Nesmith, Obi Toppin. They got those guys in trade. And then look at their draft selections. Benedict Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard, Jarace Walker, Ben Shepherd, right? They got these guys also with drafting smart and looking at fit when they drafted, right? So they rebuilt their roster to fit what the modern NBA was going to and to be very versatile in how they can embrace things, but also they had some pretty damn good coaching in over that time as well, right? They embraced youth, in shooting, versatility defensively and offensively, but they picked a direction and they stuck to that direction and saw that direction through, and now look at what it gave them, right? The Pacers could have easily pivoted after some of the years where their record wasn't necessarily what they had hoped it could be. They could have easily pivoted, and they did not. They saw out the process, and that's where AK went wrong. Let's flip that and look at what AK did, right? By the time that AK came into this team and talked about wanting to build young and organically through the draft, right? But then 6 months into that, less than 6 months into taking over the job, you traded 3 first-round picks, I believe, to get an aging center in Nikola Vucevic.